Yeah, we don't want to disappoint them. I will open the meeting of Board of Health, 7 o'clock, and we have three nice gentlemen. I hope they be quiet while we have the, we're gonna have a, what you call a theatrical, and see what happens. Before I say anything, I'd like to ask this young lady if she'd be kind enough to be our clerk. So I entertain a motion.
A second.
And someone else
Oh.
first.
Who's it?
Oh, you want somebody to make a
Oh,
motion?
yeah. I'll make a motion to make you the clerk, make Louise
Second?
Nichols the clerk.
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, young lady. Okay, don't scratch me with a lead finger. All right.
Aren't your hands soft?
Yes.
Anybody had a chance to read the minutes?
Yep.
Okay. She was kind enough to give it to me a couple of days ago. My wife says, "What are you doing, honey?" "You're reading a book?" I said, "Yeah." "What about the work you promised me to do?" I will do that as soon as I finish what I'm doing." "Oh, yeah? When? Next week?" "Yeah, next week." Okay. Anybody like to make a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the meetings for October 9th. Do we do it one at a
Okay.
time?
Mhm.
Anybody second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. You're not gonna oppose, right, George? You're a nice guy, right? All right, well, any other meeting we?
Well, we have two more
Go ahead.
dates, so I make a motion to accept the minutes for the meeting on October 23rd
Okay.
of 2018.
Any second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No?
I was
And-
absent that.
You were absent?
meeting.
Yeah, you were, yeah.
And I make a motion to accept the meetings for November 13th,
Okay.
the minutes for the meeting on November 13th.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Board member reports. Anybody has a report for this particular meeting today? Nobody? You have anything?
Well, I went, Louise and I went to an open meeting law discussion. It was really informative. One of the things that I took from it, and I don't have my notes, but they said that the chair has to announce that this meeting is being televised, which we don't really do. So I don't know if that's something that we want to start
will
to
make
do,
an
or you need to have like a little thing that says, no, on video, or maybe it is for the audience to know that it's being televised.
Yeah,
So,
it's for the audience.
For those who not know that we are televised, I would let you know that we are televised every time we have a meeting, so it's nothing closed door. We even have guests, even sometimes they don't need anything. They come because they love us. Okay? Now watch the TV and then you see the meeting, how it's conducted. Thank you.
all right, and then
You
I
happy
also
now?
went to a addiction discussion,
Oh,
which was
yeah.
also really interesting, and it was just interesting.
That's good.
So, they're talking about how tobacco is more addictive than
Anything else?
heroin and obviously marijuana too, so kind of informative.
Is there anything we should be doing there?
No, it was not a Board of Health discussion, it was a doctor from, I think, MGH, who is an addiction specialist, so he wanted to talk to more people that had, like, athletes that knew they were gonna be drug tested and how they had to slowly wean themselves off of it so that they could have a negative blood test or urine test, so pretty interesting.
And,
I also went to the MAHB certificate conference. It was an all-day
good.
thing, and that was interesting because they did a section on tobacco law and marijuana. So
Good.
it was good.
Was that at Air? At Devon's, or was it someplace
was
else?
in
Marlboro.
Marlboro.
Oh, okay.
anything from you, honey?
No.
Kevin? Okay, thank you. Correspondence, anything?
You have your sheets?
I have two bills for you to sign.
Okay. How many signatures you need? Take one?
You,
That's it? You're not gonna come after me, am I? You never know. Just go this way. Move it back here, please.
What's that? Calabasas Civic? Oh, is that Cleveland?
It looks like it.
Think somebody can
Over
copy
on,
this in this one?
Yeah, they do have food there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Finished breakfast.
About Littleton Volunteer Corps appointment, Scott Conley, are you, Scott, anybody over here, no?
I don't think they were
Scott
showing up, I think
Conley.
they just wanted you to,
Huh?
no, I don't think anyone was showing up, I think they, just like last time, they just want you to
To
not
approve him,
approve them.
okay? So we needed to appoint this gentleman, which we don't know who he is.
Is there
Scott
some resume for him
Conley.
or something?
Konnkle.
Volunteer.
Did I say it
Okay.
right?
I think you nailed it.
Close enough?
Yeah.
All right. Would you have anything to say about this gentleman?
I don't know this gentleman at all.
Wouldn't it be nice if he comes?
I have invited them each and every time,
I'll
and
tell
I
you,
just had that
I'll
letter
tell you
that I
what,
forwarded
I'll-
to you folks.
I'll tell you what,
Oh, from Alex?
I'm gonna give the board some time, and the next meeting, if he does come, if he doesn't, then we'll see what happens, okay? I
Okay,
think they should be here, so we know who they are,
okay,
and he might be a nice guy, but you never know, if you don't see an individual, it's like when you buy a car, right? You go buy oh yeah, the car is here, yeah, but where? What kind of a car is it?
Well, the Littleton Volunteer Corps, they probably screened him,
Probably- yeah,
right?
they
The-
probably
The
vet them
leader of
both.
that, so I
The
think,
question, I'm sorry to say this,
yeah.
I've been in the Board of Health for many, many years. I like to see people, you know what I mean? It's nice to know who we appoint. It's not that because he's volunteer. Sometimes you appoint a volunteer that maybe somebody don't like him, but the question is, we gotta like him.
I don't think we need to like him, I
But
think
not
that's
to
not what his
appoint,
job
not
is for.
like him to a point where he should be present when he's getting appointed.
I'm fine if they're already vetting him and
Well,
recommending him, I'm
I,
fine with just.
I don't know about that, but
That's just my opinion.
we slide it, and the next time, we'll appoint him, but right now, when I got appointed in some different boards, I had to be present. They don't know who
I don't
it
think
is,
that's our
even
job.
though
No,
everybody,
no, either.
they think they know me, right, George?
I agree with you, Gino.
All right, so we skip that.
Well, just one more thing, I don't think it's our job, really, that's the volunteers, corps to decide who they want on it. And it's just our job to appoint them. So they've done the legwork, they've chosen this gentleman.
Did we get a
And-
letter from Mr. McCurdy or anything?
We should have a something.
Yeah,
Yes.
There's a letter from him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can we read it, Annie? Can we see it?
I didn't print it out.
I have it here.
You have it? Okay, read
It
read it loud.
says, from Alex McCurdy, hello, please be advised that Scott Conkle of 949 Liberty Square Road, Boxborough, has applied for membership to the Littleton Volunteer Corps and completed his Corey check. He may now be appointed. Please advise when that happens so I can get him headed to the town clerk's office for swearing in. Thank you, Alex McCurdy, Director.
Okay. Now we know that somebody had some communication with the gentleman. Okay, now I leave it up to the board.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve Scott McConkle or to appoint him the Littleton Volunteer Corps, consistent with Mr. McCurdy's message.
And what we've done previously too.
Yeah.
We've never met one, so I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay, next time we should have something like a letter or... I made my point.
Yep, They
Thank
could
you.
probably send a resume. That
Yeah.
might-
Okay, 7:10, look at that. Dave, Kevin, 7:10.
You're doing,
We are,
you're doing well.
look at that. Public hearing, Summer Trail. Anybody here from that?
Somerset?
Oh,
Somerset.
the gentleman is coming close to us. Request for a septic system variance, fill within 10 feet of a property line. Wow. You don't want no variance from the 10 feet? You give us 11 feet?
Gonna do 11.
Wow, you're a nice guy. Sit down, relax.
My name's Russ Wilson, I'm representing the Williamses. And proposing a septic system and house on a 7,500 square foot lot.
You have another for the lady here? You want to look at that one? And one for the gentleman.
One here for the mayor.
Yeah, and we have, I think we have
Thank you.
Jim's
3 bedroom, huh?
comments too.
3-bedroom.
And you gotta put a nice lot.
Now, this lot is, most of it is paved, and by doing this house and this driveway, we're actually reducing the impervious area on the lot. I worked with Jim to come up with a design that he was, I think he's happy with.
So you want 5 feet over here?
It's a 3-trench system,
Yeah.
yes, 5 feet one side.
What's the dimension from here?
But it's gotta be 10
That
feet.
looks less.
Over here, here. Right here.
To the left of the house, from here to the wall, looks less than here.
That's filled at, not actually part of the septic system breakout requirement.
Probably, he wants to know how far is it. You have an idea how far it is?
From the wall to the lot line.
It's 5.5
Do you
feet.
have Jim's
So,
notes? 'Cause
so all the way
We
around,
can't get into
5.5
I
feet,
can't
am I
open
correct?
it.
Yes.
Do you have Jim's notes?
In the front,
Is it
you
here
got more
or
than
open?
5.5, am I correct?
Oh, here they come.
On the opposite side,
Yeah.
yes, I didn't bring the scale with me.
But then you have a driveway, am I correct?
Correct, driveway comes in the front.
Okay.
Give that to Erin.
Aaron.
Thank you.
Okay, so 5.5 feet all the way around. But you have any neighbors there at all? No?
The other side is more than 10 feet.
Yeah, but this one in back here, is anybody? Anybody at all?
Neighbor.
Yeah, do you have it on your butters here
Over.
tonight?
There's no neighbor there.
To the left.
Who owns it?
Oh, to the left, it's a, yeah, there is a neighbor there, the house there's a lot. And the house is on the other side of the lot.
Okay.
Do you have the cards for the abutters from the mailing?
Yes, I do.
Janet?
Where's the?
So we're doing a state-of-the-art Title V system.
So
Septic tank, D-box.
the only variance is fill within 10 feet of the property line?
Yes.
Everything else compliance with
Yeah.
Littleton?
And so where are the abutters? Or is there an empty lot?
There's an abutter right here.
Mm-hmm.
There's an abutter right back here. I believe this is the Williams that own this part.
And so this is an empty lot?
So right here to the right of the house is
Right.
empty, so you're gonna provide you're gonna provide a swale or?
Yeah, we gotta put a
see.
depression in the front
Yeah,
Oh,
you can
I see.
Right here.
Mhm.
on both
Yeah,
sides.
right.
Are you going to install the infiltration?
Pardon?
Are you gonna do the infiltration that Jim recommended?
Yeah, it'll just be a grass infiltration system.
So the wall, and I'm sorry, you might have said this, but the wall is going around it, all the way around it, the 3 sides here?
Yes,
And then which side are you within 10 feet over here?
yes, that side,
Is that the only side?
yes.
So if you did put the wall up, you wouldn't be able to fit it on the lot, correct?
I'm sorry, the back is also 5.5 feet.
This one here.
I didn't know if that
The
was
way it's
elevation.
drawn, it looks like this is less.
Yeah.
And then
Well, the wall
See,
is-
that line is right here, see?
Yeah.
This is last year.
No.
Is it?
This is the property line, this is the wall.
So it's
No,
5.5
no.
feet rather than
That's the
10.
wall, and this from here to here is 5 feet and a half. Not from here to there. It's from
I know how
here
to,
to
I know how to
here.
read, I know how to read plans.
We are putting fill on the side of the lot line between the wall, but it's not part of the breakouts for the,
Yeah, it's a
of
lot
the
less.
system. It's just so not much wall would be exposed.
Move it down.
Louise, I agree with you, that looks like closer in here, quite considerably. I don't have a scale with me.
It is
So
closer.
this,
Yeah, it's okay.
the top,
And
So how many-
it doesn't have to be there. The reason we put it there is so not too much of the wall would be exposed. It'd look better from the abutters looking over toward that lot.
Oh, I see.
We do that all the time.
are you in a butter? Are there any butters here tonight?
No butters in here.
No. Are you, is it your property?
No, I don't own the property. My a relative of mine owns the property.
Oh, okay. So you're here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much of the wall is exposed?
So I just see this side down here. The top of the wall is, I believe, is 194, and the grade behind there is 192. So 2 feet.
And how much grade are you adding to the, to lot to bring it for the
I
design?
think it's gonna probably run.
How much are you increasing the elevation of the lot?
It's like 187, 189.
There's a 189 going right through the middle.
And you're going up to 92?
Yes,
190.
194.
194 actually is the highest spot.
194.
Yeah.
So they're going up 5 feet.
But at least they put the wall.
Going up 5 feet on that. 5.5.
Well, you have any problem with the butter, no?
There are no butters here tonight.
I tend to feel that it's an empty lot. It's
Right here.
the variance, well, no, I mean the lot that they're developing
Mhm.
is empty. This is only 5.5 feet instead of 10, which we typically want. They're going up 5 feet in grade. I mean, in my mind,
It's pretty high.
I wouldn't support a variance for this, for a new build. You know, if it was something that we had to improve, then that would be a different story. But to put a system on a lot that isn't really fully capable of handling it per our regulation, I can't support that.
The high point is 5 feet, and then it drops down to 194 on to the wall.
I see,
Is this a Presby or anything like that, or you said it was a
Just
state of the art?
Straight trenches, gravity system.
And so are you saying that it's paved on around?
yeah.
You said that most of it was
Most of the
paved.
lot right now is paved. It's a driveway.
Yeah, there's a line that goes, you can see the pavement goes all the way up here.
Whose driveway is it? The,
It's a permanent driveway for an abutting property. But the other property, there's another lot separating that property as well. So there are lots here. There's a lot behind it, a vacant lot. And then the property that has a permanent driveway is the lot next to it, to the left. So the house that the driveway is being used for is not actually, it's abutting at a diagonal angle like that.
but this lot isn't,
It's being used as a driveway currently.
but it's not, it doesn't have to be, there's no easement or anything for a driveway. It's just being used by the adjacent property?
Right,
Okay.
well, they own the property, they own both pieces of property.
Okay.
Well, technically, they don't own both pieces of property, one's in, it's a different owner, but they're allowed to use the driveway.
Okay.
Is there any way you can keep this wall 10 feet off the property line?
I don't think he's got enough room for that.
Is it possible to move it down? It looks like there's very little space up here, and maybe a little bit more space down here. Any way that it can be moved down a little bit?
Well, that's only
But that's
5'5",
only
that's
5.
probably just 10.
Because he wants to have the driveway, see?
No, the driveway can be in,
Yeah, both sides.
It's 5.5 here.
How about if we read Jim's
Go ahead.
summary?
That's probably only
it's
10.
probably 10.
Yeah, and this is,
Sunset Trail, the applicant would like to obtain a permit to install a sewage disposal system on the above mentioned lot. The proposal would be considered new construction, and this is vacant land. Soil testing was conducted and a suitable area for a system was found. The lot is small and slopes to the street. Because of the seasonal high water table, the system will be raised, and fill for the system will require the use of a retaining wall to keep the fill on the site. The proposed wall is 10 feet from the edge of the system. I wouldn't expect the site grading to affect the abutters to the left and rear of the proposed house. There is a vacant lot to the right of the house, and this lot slopes to the street. I have spoken to the designer and suggested installing an infiltration area on the right front corner of the lot to mitigate the effect of any potential runoff. The plan otherwise complies with Title V and the regulations, with the exception of the variance requested. So that's this right here, that
Right.
infiltration area that you've got here.
That's right.
So this the best thing you can do, practically. Even Jimmy understand that.
It's only a 7,500 square foot lot.
Right.
so he doesn't say whether he supports it or not, he just says that it complies.
So anyway,
Usually he puts it.
I'll leave it
otherwise
up to the
complies
board.
with Title V.
Anybody
Yeah.
wants to entertain a motion?
He doesn't say he doesn't support it,
Yeah.
Uncle Levi.
I think I have a problem with both sides being under 10 feet. You know, 2 out of 3 sides is under 10 feet.
Did you perk the front?
It's not much from,
Does they have any
I
problem?
mean, pushing,
No.
pushing the house back, perking the front?
yeah, flip it.
No, that would make it worse. It'd be too close to the street.
But right now, it's too close to.
Is it possible to shift it over towards this other lot line here?
No, I think I don't think that would make any difference. It would just create a problem over on the other side.
Because you're gonna have a driveway on the other side, am I correct?
Right.
Right.
Where's the driveway gonna be?
Well, the driveway is in the front on the right side.
Yeah. So if you moved so you've got a little less than 5 feet here, you've got 5.5 feet here, you've got 10 feet here. If you if you move everything down just a little bit, maybe make it to 7, make a little bit more room over there. If there's nobody, if there's no houses here, is that correct?
There is no house on that lot.
Mhm.
It wouldn't move it very much. It's almost it's just not gonna make any difference.
So it has to be this size because of the 3-bedroom home.
Right.
Is somebody gonna be living in this home, or are you building it to sell?
It's really not determined yet. Most likely someone will be living there. I understand that the lot line is where the lot line is, but in terms of the abutters, it wouldn't really make a difference to anybody whether you moved it 5 feet one way or 5 feet to the other. The only thing it makes a difference to is the lot line. The lot line doesn't really affect either of the abutters, based on where their current homes are.
Yeah, but it's a regulation of a new construction, a
understand.
new constructed
I
home,
understand.
so. Any chance you'd be willing to change it to a 2-bedroom, make everything a little bit smaller?
That'd probably work.
Hmm?
It's over by Lake Manawanaki, right?
Yeah,
There's multiple homes in, obviously, in that neighborhood on these size lots.
mhm.
Same size?
Yeah.
We see them all the time. They come in and they have a really tough time upgrading their septic systems, which is, we
Yeah,
try-
most of them are upgrades, though, not,
Yeah, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, people buy their home with
Mhm.
approved septic from the Board of Health, and they expect it. They think that we try to do our due diligence in making sure that it's a good one.
No matter what you're gonna do, you're gonna require a variance to the lot line.
Right.
Whether I move it right or left, it's not gonna matter.
even
Unless
if
it
you,
was a smaller home.
I was gonna say, even if you decrease the amount of flow and made it a two-bedroom home, would it make a substantial difference in the size of the system?
If they're gonna be living there, they need 3 bedrooms. I understand what he says.
Right.
Okay? The question is, we have no objection from the agent. It's only 5.5 feet. Okay? In the past, we allow 5 feet, right on the nose. So if you don't wanna do it, you should tell me right now, and then we'll get Jimmy to come and tell us that it would be okay to give a variance. Otherwise, we can't make them come again for 5 feet. Wants to build a house with 3 bedrooms.
Well, it doesn't matter now, because we say that there's no abutters, but there might
Right.
be at some point, and they might have a problem with having,
The bottom might have the same problem, they might need that 5 feet and a half, because all the lots are the same size.
Which abutter is in question, because all the other abutters decided not to come to the, to
Right,
the,
right.
Yeah, there's
They have no
no-
objection, that's what you're trying to tell us.
the other lot's is connected to the house, the abutting house, and they don't have an objection either,
Right.
so.
mhm.
So,
What's the square footage of this system?
sir, he wants to
Mr.
tell you,
Wilson.
ask you something.
Square footage?
Yeah.
40 by, let's see, 8, 16,
And
640 square feet.
640.
what's the square footage of the house?
24 by 40,
$40.
840 square feet.
What's,
So two-story, 1,600.
Yes.
and what's the square footage required for a 220 gallons a day?
A two-bedroom house,
Yeah.
you just, would take one of these trenches out.
And you're using the area in between the trenches as the reserve?
Yes.
This scale's less than 5 feet.
For which line?
The top one,
The top? That's what we got on
yeah.
my paper scale.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to make a decision, okay? I appreciate it that you're concerned. We need to entertain a motion here.
I'd like to see a little bit more space in between the
The
two.
gentleman already told you you can't do it,
Okay, well,
okay? There's other lots the same size, and I'm sure they're gonna go 3 bedroom too. So we're gonna have the same problem. You cannot refuse an engineer that even the agent is not saying no. He just say that we should give him to indirectly 5 feet and whatever.
Well, you can refuse, because you can refuse the variance, so you may not want to, but.
He
it's a-
would have said, I
it's
will
an
not
option.
allow it, and then
Yeah.
we be the judge to say yes or no. But 5 feet and a half, even though she says it's not, I don't mean not to trust the measurement, the question is, you cannot do better than that, am I correct?
That's right.
Okay.
The
And you've
only
been-
thing is, if you refuse the variance, we'll come back with a two-bedroom house.
That's what I'm saying. Whoever wants that piece of property, they like that 3 bedroom, because if they needed only 2 bedroom, they would have said to you, make the plan for 2 bedroom.
But the
But they
height,
asked you for 3 bedroom. And the lot is a little tight, But the question is, 5.5 feet? Nobody complains, because we had them in the past. Now, I like to entertain a motion, otherwise we'll send him away and he can come back another couple weeks. I leave it up to you guys.
The system will be at the same height. It'll be smaller, 'cause what I'll do is, I would take, still be 3 trenches. I would just shorten them so it's smaller.
Shorten the length of each trench,
Right,
so the whole system would move in, the wall would move in and away from the lot line.
You might be able to get away without a wall.
Yeah.
This one says he's gonna.
Yeah, it might be a lot less expensive with the no
But the
wall.
beach field should be the way it is for 2
my
bedrooms.
client wanted a 3-bedroom, so that's what I designed for him.
The wall also isn't really affecting anybody, it's just the
Right.
variance to put the wall that close to the lot line. The lot line, nobody has a problem putting the wall that close to the lot line, besides obviously the code that we have here, which is why we're requiring the variance. The 3-bedroom house is obviously beneficial for a lot of people, including the assessed value that the town gets paid in tax every year. So it's really in everybody's best interest if we do approve a 3-bedroom septic instead of a 2-bedroom.
Right.
Nobody really benefits from the 2-bedroom besides the code that's already written.
Well, our job is public health
I understand.
and the environment, so that's what we look at. We don't look at
I
revenue.
understand it, and Jim Greffey has also said that, he has approved the septic design. He hasn't said it outright, but he doesn't have any problem, and this is the design that he wanted to see, so that's why
Yeah.
that we have this design.
I think he felt it was the best on the lot. He doesn't say he supports it.
Right,
He
I
says it-
understand, I
yeah.
understand. But
I'm
he's
just
also saying
clarifying.
it's the best for the law.
He said that it complies with Title V and your regulations with the exception of the variance.
And
So
and I know
just-
that Russ designed this septic design based on what Jim wanted to see, so.
Whether it's a 3 or a 2, it's still gonna be the same height, and it's still gonna have a wall around it.
How far away will it be from, how much further away will it be from those 2 lot lines?
The wall in the back will probably stay the same, but the
So
walls
5.5
on,
feet?
the walls on the side will, yes, in the back.
So there still will be a variance.
Either way.
So I make a motion to approve the plan for a 3-bedroom home, a septic system for a 3-bedroom home on Samoset Trail,
And the
per the drawings of,
88 from City.
by Russ Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, we got the stamp. Entertain a second. Anybody second?
Mm-mm.
No second.
Okay.
Can you second?
No, I can also not only entertain a second, I can say I override all you 3. And if there's any problem, the attorney can get in touch with me.
So did you just second it, Gina?
I don't have to give a second, I say I approve it. I second with her. I think we should get the attorney, because you have no problem allowing a 5.5 feet for 3-bedroom, and you have 3 members that say no because they're not 7 or 8 feet. It's not right. It's not right.
Did you second?
You did.
You did, right? I'm gonna call the vote.
You call the vote?
It's your job, right?
Do you vote?
What is the public health issue that you were worried about?
There's no, I don't see any problem, actually. You got
Somebody
nobody
mentioned
that's
that.
complaining, and there's gonna be more housing built in those empty lots. Am I correct? And probably they're gonna build it like in 3-bedroom, usually, if they have a family. What's the problem? They pay taxes all this time, and then you're gonna say, no, you can't build it. It's not fair.
He can build it, he can build a smaller house with a smaller
But he
system.
doesn't need 2-bedroom, they need 3-bedroom.
But
If
what you need and what you're gonna,
If you have children, you need 3-bedroom.
but what you need and what they can, who they're gonna sell it for is different than what is required by our regulations and what this plan says.
Look, if
So
it-
what they need is different
And make a
than what,
motion.
If the agent were to say, I will not approve it, it's up to us to say yes or no. Even if he says no, we have the option to say yes. He didn't say anything that he doesn't like this
Right.
particular
Yeah.
design.
He rarely
He
does.
says, it's up to us to give him the variance, yes or no. Very simple. Why should we downsize the house because the engineer is trying to fit 3 bedrooms?
Why would
5 feet? Give it a
So
break.
we have a, somebody motioned, we don't have a second, or we do have a second on it?
I-
What's going on procedurally, because I'm not clear on this.
You find out from the attorney if I can second.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
Well, we,
I tried
because-
texting Jim.
yeah, tell like the attorney, we like to make some exceptions sometime. The chairman, the vice chairman has the authority to do that. Because we you know, it's an impediment to an individual, they can't build something for 5 feet.
May I make a motion? Or do you want to call, we don't have a second,
I
so.
don't have a second.
I'm also curious what the health risk is here as well.
Well, we have regulations, and they're put in place for environment and public health, and they're minimal at this point.
I understand.
And we can either grant a variance or not, depending on the situation. In this case, the board has looked at it, and we have our opinions, and
Yeah, I'm just
we don't
curious.
have to, we could get into the public health and the environment here, but I don't, we're voting on a variance.
Well,
A variance based on a public health, that's why the board is here. Public health.
Because the lot is small, and it doesn't have very much room on it to develop a 3-bedroom house, that's why. And the more you put in, the more loading you get. The septic system only will treat the organics, the waste that goes in it, the solid waste. And it also, the filtration underneath it treats it for coliform. There are other things that come out of it, including viruses, that take a lot longer than 10 feet to come out. There's viruses and there's other pathogens in there. And
Well-
so that, if, I really don't want to get into this discussion, but you asked the question, and that's my personal opinion on the answer, okay?
Okay.
That's your fault.
but the leach field itself, like I said, is a state-of-the-art Title V system. It complies with what's required for a 3-bedroom house.
and Jim said that,
He said all that.
except for the variance of the,
You have to get approval from us, that's why you're here. I mean, and then we can grant it or not, based on our review, and we've all done that, and we all have our.
Yep, I
our
haven't heard any
Did
good
you want to make a
reasons.
motion?
I was hoping,
that-
yeah, may I make a motion? I'd like to continue this and give Mr. Wilson a
That's a
chance to
great
come up
idea.
with a 2-bedroom design, see if we can fit it in better.
Any second?
I'll
a
second.
second. Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ask for opposed.
Okay.
Are there any opposed?
Well, of course, as a chairman, I can oppose, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that
Yeah.
whoever's opposed should get the
Well,
opportunity
he
to
makes
say
sure
that.
that Jim be here if he can, or he can get in touch with Mr. Wilson, okay? Tell him that we were not satisfied with the comment he made.
I mean, can we recess and I can make a call and we can come back to this, or is that our only option?
When's the next time we can meet?
Is the January 8th, and it'll be at 7:10.
You guys are, it's a neighborhood that, most of the lots in that neighborhood are this size, and most of the bedrooms in there, 3 bedroom septic.
And they come in and they need more variances, and it's, we see it.
I
A
just don't
lot.
see where the 5 feet matters and who it matters to based on the lot line. The lot line is based on what the town said the lot line was when they designed the neighborhood, correct? And then you don't have a house even close to the lot line, so it doesn't affect anybody in terms of that 5 feet.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make much sense to me.
Oh, is that,
We're gonna close.
Yeah, is that
We're-
closed?
So we've continued. it
Yeah.
now?
yeah.
I gotta get my stupid phone out of the way. I can find the stupid thing.
All I know is the system meets Title V, it's 10 feet from the wall. The only issue is the wall to the lot line,
Mhm.
which is not a public health issue.
You've continued it already.
Yeah, we need to move on.
Don't get upset, we be back.
On the
okay?
next one? Yeah, you don't have to read this one. Have you got Jim's notes?
Yeah.
He's got quite a few on the next one. It's a discussion.
You want to say something, George?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, does the chairman of the board have a voting right on this board?
Yes, you do. The question is, you have to ask the board. I entertain a motion, in a second.
Well, I understand the procedure.
Yeah, I can say yes, I can say no.
This one,
Yeah.
it appeared that you didn't, to me, as visibly, it appeared that you didn't have that right. Because I know the town
Yeah.
does not follow the parliamentary procedure around the rules, and every chairman has the right to vote on every board in the town.
You're correct. I vote all the time. The question I give the opportunity for the members, you know what I mean? If I had the power to override them, yeah, I would. But I don't want to get in trouble with the attorney, you know what I'm saying? I just put it up there, you know what I mean? So somebody might say, you know, we should change some regulation. Why don't they do that in the Congress and the
Okay.
Senate?
Okay,
So
why
we
don't
need to get to, way past 7:20 to move on to the next discussion.
Yes.
The Workers' Credit Union, not 119 Russell Street.
Anybody from 119? Would
Suits
you
are
please
here.
approach?
All right, sure.
Before I forget, you gentlemen sign over there, did you sign? Before you sit, you gotta sign, please. Thank you. Everybody should be able to sign. Because when you ask a question, we wanna know your name.
Janet, did you get the property owner's relative's name who was speaking? Did you give your name?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you had it.
You can sign too, next time we know who you are.
Yeah, I did.
You did sign?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I signed too.
Thank you, George. You too? Thank you.
So I think we're here for just a discussion.
Discussion,
Good, okay.
that's all.
No decisions
And I'll
tonight.
try and be brief.
And your name is?
Good evening, my name is Douglas DeShane. I'm here this evening representing Workers' Credit Union. Thank you for your time. I would like to introduce the team I have with me, just so you know who all the players are. Brian Goudreau from Hancock Associates, Dave Formato from On-Site Engineering, Matt Blackman from the Blackman Company, a consultant on the project, and then Robert Lockett is Senior Vice President from Workers' Credit Union. Some of you may know that Workers' Credit Union has proposed to redevelop and expand the existing office building at 119 Russell Street. We spent the better part of last year permitting and getting approvals to redevelop the building. Workers is proposing to make this building their new headquarters and to essentially put their business here in Littleton for the future. We have been working in designing our subsurface sewage disposal system. And while our system conforms to all state regulations, we have run into a little problem in addressing the local regulation 10, which as you know, limits our loading to 6 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet of area within this zone. Quite frankly, the system as designed does not quite meet that standard. So we have been looking at ways to make it conform to your local bylaws. And we have, I have, and our team has had experience in the past working with DEP and as well as planning boards and other boards of health in the utilization of credit land in order to provide enough area to meet the loading requirements. So what you do is you obtain or restrict non-contiguous land within the same watershed, and then you count that land towards your 1,000 square feet per requirement for the 6 gallons. As I said, I've got a lot of experience, and I know Brian and Dave have, in working with DEP in the use of credit land, so it's a true and tested methodology. In looking into that, we have done some research, and we have, in fact, been able to locate just over 10 acres of land within this watershed that the owners are willing to allow us to restrict it so that it can never be developed. Therefore, we could count it towards our total lot area. A large percentage of that land is wetland, but again, in our experience, that has not been a factor in the consideration of credit land, especially where the local regulations do allow wetlands as part of a lot in their lot definition. Mr. Goudreau has been speaking with Mr. Garafi regarding our proposed solution, the use of credit land, and I guess he has pointed out that your Regulation 10 is silent on the use or non-use of credit land in meeting that. So we were coming in this evening to essentially explain to you our current problem, what we're trying to do to resolve it, and to discuss with you your position with respect to the use of credit land in meeting your regulations. And again, one last thing I'll say is that Lot 10 is in fact silent as to the use of credit land, definition of lot, or anything else. It just speaks to the lot. And so we looked to your wider base of regulations within the town, and as I said, definition of lot, which can be found in your zoning, does allow for the inclusion of wetlands within the definition of lot area. So we do feel that we are providing area, eligible area, and by using the credit land, we can actually meet your loading requirements. But again, we're here this evening to get your position. Mr. Garafi suggested we come speak to you about the use of credit land. I don't know if this board has utilized credit land in the past in meeting Regulation 10. I know your planning board does allow for credit land in meeting their water resource and aquifer protection loading requirements and impervious surface. So
My first question is, did you go to the conservation?
We have, so
Yes.
we have order of conditions on this entire project.
Am I correct, this is all wetland?
The rear of the project is wetlands. that's
How
correct.
far usually is 100 feet?
Yeah, so if you take a look at this plan right here. there's a-
I understand.
they are letting us work for the most part to the edge of the previously disturbed area. We're not proposing to fill any wetlands. We are going to do a little tree trimming adjacent to the wetlands, but, and Brian, I think we are actually redeveloping some buffer zone.
Oh, absolutely.
Area that's been mowed right down to the wetlands, we're actually replanting it and creating
Because even
buffer area.
even this board would require 100 feet away from the wetland, and also we do grant variance. But I'm really worried because I don't know if you're gonna get any from my
Well,
board.
that's an interesting point, Mr. Chairman, and again, we're looking for some direction from the board. If we were to utilize credit land, on paper, we would show that our loading would be less than 6 gallons per 1,000 square feet.
Right.
So I don't know if if the use of credit land is allowed, I don't know if we technically need, and again, we're looking for direction from you,
Yeah.
would need a variance because we would be providing
Yeah.
the land area to match our loading.
I don't know how it's written. We'd have to look at how it was written, but I did have a couple of just questions
Sure.
and discussions I was supposed to.
Can I just ask about the project, or
Oh, sure.
Yes, can you go
Can
can
through
you just go
where
back
is
to the
credit
original?
line?
So there's a little building and then there's an office building? You-
Yeah, so if you take a look.
Can we look at the original and the proposed side by side?
Well, yeah, there's the original is on there.
So this is what exists
Right,
today,
yeah.
and you can see the outline of the
Mhm.
existing building. It's basically an expansion of the existing building. So there's a 40,000 square foot two-story office building that's gonna be built out to 60,000 square feet, two-story. The existing septic system, it's a pressure dosed field, designed for 3,225 gallons per day, and it has passed Title V. And what we're doing is we're going to expand the existing system. We're essentially gonna elongate the pressure dosed field for the additional 20,000 square feet. Now, the outbuilding that you were referencing, there was.
No, yeah, it was like a Clockworks building. I think it's on that side. It's like a little one-story modern kind of.
I think that's the next lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was being taken over, but no.
Nope.
He's
Okay.
going
Yeah,
towards
so
the
there's an
corner.
Yeah.
adjacent, I believe it's an electrician's contractor's
Oh, yeah.
office
Mhm.
that's directly
think
next
it's
to
on
it.
that
It's like
side.
a steel building. Yeah, so
Is it
that's
on
that's
that
a
side?
that's a separate parcel.
Where's your
Okay.
parking space?
It's- it's
That's
the-
all parking space?
Yep.
So,
it's the gray.
but there is a second building proposed on
Correct.
within our project as well. This will be a small branch office, a workers' credit union.
Mhm.
And Brian, wasn't a separate system?
Correct. So this is a 2,000 square foot bank, per Title V. It's a 150 gallon per day separate system
Right,
that is
right.
required. We're actually building a 200 gallon per day system
Yeah, yeah.
on that, because that's the minimum that we can. So
Mhm.
there's a very small, conventional system here, and then the larger pressure dose field servicing the office
So in a
building.
small one, how many people you have working there? One or two?
Yeah,
And on the big one, how many they usually work? How many people?
how many in the office building?
When it first opens, they're estimating 60 people, and at
60
full occupancy,
people.
it could be close to 200.
Close to 200. When it's
They're building this and have an immediate requirement for 60 people,
Yeah, yeah.
but making this their world headquarters and future home forever, they're providing the ability to grow
I see.
up
So
to.
this office space will be for workers' credit union?
Oh, yes, it's their
Corporate
headquarters.
branch is
Will be a
right.
little branch bank office, yeah.
Do we
no,
have a
this-
workers' credit or we don't
There's
have
one
one
in
in?
Acton.
No, we don't. In
Okay.
Acton, in Acton.
Westford as well.
You'll have workers headquarters,
Yeah.
not just a branch. No, this is their headquarters, their corporate
Yeah.
offices, processing.
Mhm.
Well, that's
Such
nice
a-
of you to come and introduce yourself and tell us a little story. The next time you come, make sure you got the stamp.
We have submitted stamp drawings,
Okay,
the
I can
full
see it.
engineered
All right.
design
All right.
for both systems,
Yeah.
to both this board as well as Neshoba.
Could I just ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
So the swap area, what do you call it?
Credit line.
Credit, yeah. You said it's within the watershed, but is it within the Aquifer Water Resource District?
It is.
Yes,
Okay.
the
And-
same aquifer.
Yep.
Okay. And then, so it is, have you considered a nitrogen treatment system?
We have, and we are prepared to discuss that as an alternative way to address this issue.
Yeah.
But we felt that if the credit land process was something the board was willing to consider, we could technically meet your bylaw
Right.
And then
right.
how-
without need for a variance.
How much of the, because a wetland is preserved anyway, so in my mind, that's not I understand you looked at the, I gotcha.
completely
But-
understand what you're
but I'm
saying.
asking you, what percentage of that 10 acres is wetland?
Most of it.
Okay. So in my mind, that's not a swap. And it really depends on how the law reads out and what I'm just telling you.
But if that wetland were part of our contiguous lot, we would be able to take it
Yeah,
as credit. So I agree, I understand exactly what you're saying,
yeah.
is that in some ways, wetlands are theoretically.
I'm just giving you my feedback.
No, I'm just telling, I agree. I mean, this, I'll be honest.
You agree, huh?
I agree with you. I mean, I find it interesting
Mhm.
that the DEP allows us to use wetlands.
Well,
Um, But-
the law that you cited is up, I mean, there is discussion about it.
But again, I think what carries the day for them and for us, or has, is that if we actually had 10 additional acres connected to our site, we would be able to restrict it for non-development and count it.
That's
So
per our code, right?
If it wasn't wet.
No, not if it wasn't wet.
Well,
If it
per
was
our
part of
codes
the
and
lot,
DEP would
period,
handle it.
it's a very straightforward calculation, 6 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
And what we're here for is, we don't have contiguous land, it's not part of the lot, but we're still representing that 6 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet. So regardless of contiguous or not, we're reserving the same amount of land area within the aquifer protection district, which meets the intent. So the lot that we're potentially utilizing for credit land, it could be developed on that lot and utilized in their calculation without having to go for any sort of kind of discussion or what we're here for this evening.
So yeah, in a way, we are, the impact of using credit land is the parcel from which you take it is now restricted in its future or potential development because it can't count that towards its loading.
If
So
everybody- if
it's
everybody-
really just looking at the big picture. You know, you got a full watershed. You have to make sure that you don't have a loading that exceeds 6 gallons per 1,000 within the watershed. We're just, playing a little bit
Where
with.
is this
The young
credit
lady wants to
land?
talk.
I keep hearing credit land, but where is it on the plan?
So we're currently,
It's off Air Road.
yeah, it's off Air Road. There's actually 2 parcels that we're looking at, so we don't have a legal agreement yet, I don't believe.
Well, we do. We don't
They
have
do, But
we haven't put the formal restrictions on it. We have agreements with the landowners that they will grant us the legal restriction. In fact, one of them is a lot that will ultimately not be able to be developed in any way, shape, or form if the restrictions put on it, because it's mostly wet to begin with, and
Do we have the nitrogen aggregation plan guidance? I think Jim sent it, but I don't think I could open it.
Are you close to the point?
we are.
this across the street.
Yeah.
I
To
was
the point,
thinking of
yeah,
it
the
because-
point's right up over there.
But to answer your question, and again, we really wanted to at least start the conversation with this credit land idea because, at least in my non-scientific mind, I can meet the regulation. I can provide the 1,000 square feet per 6 gallons. We have investigated, and the reason we have Mr. Formato here with us today is that he is looking at nitrogen reduction system that we could potentially utilize here to address nitrogen loading. But it would require a customized system that would have to be reviewed and approved. Obviously, it's not an off-the-shelf DEP approved. Most of those are for residential structures. And Dave, I shouldn't be talking right now.
Keep
Tell
going.
us.
You're on point.
I know, but the point is that it isn't an off-the-shelf DEP system. What I have learned, from Dave, is that they would take one of those, and it would be modified to address the commercial use, but in terms of functionality and nitrogen reduction, it would meet all of the necessary requirements. So we have been looking at that as an
Is that called a
alternative.
nitrogen aggregation plan, or is that something different?
No.
I'm not familiar with that term.
Sure. Sorry, Dave Formato, On-Site Engineering. As Doug mentioned, he's referring more to like the innovative alternative
Right.
category of Title V treatment systems. So that's what he was talking about. The nitrogen aggregation plan is the broader DEP guidance on just how you look at nitrogen loading over an aquifer or a zone 2 or something along those lines. So that's
So
it's
you're,
kind of a separate animal in terms of what.
and so are you considering putting one of those together for this to integrate the off-site property?
So the nitrogen aggregation and credit land are the same thing.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
Essentially, the nitrogen aggregation plan, as DEP calls it, sets forth guidance that dictates the form to use, the legal instrument to implement, and Doug can dive into that if you want, to legally restrict that land to make sure it meets the intent of the nitrogen aggregation, or in this case, your local bylaw of loading. So it's a method to be able to say that this property is gonna put 4,700 gallons per day across these two buildings into the ground, and off-site, they're not gonna be able to put any gallons per day into the ground in perpetuity.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask you something, and including you. 3,000, the tank's gonna be 3,000, right?
The tank, I don't know the size of the tank off the top of my head. So we have a 9,000 gallon tank.
Okay, 9,000
Followed
gallons.
by a 7,000 gallon tank going
Okay.
to a pump chamber for the pressure vessel
Okay.
system.
So, my question is, are you aware of it, if you enlarge the people that work for you in that particular area, the more people you have, you have to watch that every 6 months you need to have somebody pumping that thing out. Otherwise, it's gonna cost you hundreds of $1,000s if something happens. So, I don't think many engineers don't even mention things like that. I like to mention it because it happened to, very simple, many people in Littleton without mentioning any name. Just to give you an idea, without mentioning any name, a gentleman, I always mention the gentleman, came from Cambridge, he had a sewage treatment. He bought a house in Littleton, he lived there 25 years. He come in front of us and he says, I have a problem. I said, what problem? My tank, I have to replace it. And I say, when was the last time you cleaned it? He says, never.
Never.
I'm sorry to say, it's gonna cost you $45,000 to replace it. There's nothing we can do. So that is the question that sometime you guys should mention to them, when should be clean? And this is my thought of the day.
So,
I have
just
a-
to
I have a
answer your
comment too.
nitrogen aggregation question, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony. The use of credit land is one way to have a nitrogen loading
So your
plan.
credit land would have to meet the requirements of, I don't know what they are, in
That's-
the nitrogen aggregation plan.
I think it's designed to be adjacent to the property.
And Dave, you can speak to this maybe a little bit better. The design point is the well. So as long as it meets the intent of protecting the groundwater at the well, the analysis point, that's the point.
So does the extra land have to be between the facility and the well, down gradient? It doesn't, that's what I was wondering.
As long
Is
as
that
they're 100 feet
Phragmites?
away.
Have you got a
As
degraded
long as
wetland
it's
there?
within the same
Is it frag?
watershed district.
So the water that's coming out of there is gonna discharge right into that surface water there. Is there a
Coming out
culvert?
of what?
Oh, the septic system?
No, so the septic system discharges into the ground. It doesn't-
Yeah, I know, but groundwater discharges it'll discharge over here, so you won't have much distance between. Anyway, is there a culvert over here? On this end?
Underneath 119 there is.
There's a culvert.
Under 119.
Which is right here.
Over
Yeah, no,
this-
I understand. So it's going this way. Okay.
Have you guys talked at all to the master plan implementation
Yeah.
about the sewer at all?
Yeah.
Sure,
Because
where,
there is a
Where-
possibility
Oh, yeah, that's.
oh yeah,
that you
where.
wouldn't have to worry about any of this stuff.
Right, right.
Well,
It will take you a while, but-
that's what we have to worry about. This project has already been approved.
You don't wanna wait 4 years, because this was gonna take before you, I was gonna mention about this.
This problem just came to light a matter of weeks before the demolition crew was
Right, right.
scheduled to begin. They should actually be well underway. We've had to put them on hold.
Yeah, yeah.
As you can imagine, Workers' Credit Union is very discouraged and upset at this point. And so we are scrambling to find any resolution. Now, we have investigated multiple resolutions, okay?
Okay.
One would be to seek a straight variance from you guys for, from the 6 gallon. We didn't want to do that. I know that's problematic. The second methodology that we've researched is this credit land. And again, in my opinion, if the credit land is accepted, or the use of credit land is accepted, we can technically show that we have that much area for the proposed gallonage. So to me, that's the cleanest, and from a scientific standpoint, it meets the purpose and intent of your bylaw. The next option would be to utilize some advanced technologies to reduce the nitrogen on this site. And again, I think that would require a variance of some kind because we're not meeting the 1,000 square foot per 6 gallons. We're showing that from a technical standpoint,
Do it.
we're reducing the nitrogen loading, but again, that would require a variance. And I guess the third option, which just confuses the heck out of me, would be some combination
Right.
of credit land and a nitrogen reduction. But if you're doing that, we can get enough credit land to just meet the requirement. That the hybrid one doesn't make sense to me. But again, we want to know what this board is.
Or you could go bigger and do a wastewater treatment plant.
Well, have you thought about contacting anybody at the point, because they do have wastewater?
We're already in
Yeah,
direct
we can
contact
get
with the point. We're in contact with the town about their long-term sewer. I mean, we want to be a player, we want to be cooperative with the town, but as you pointed out, it's timing that's going to kill us.
Right.
Have you thought about, are you considering any sort of green treatment using that wetland? Because like I said, the groundwater from, it's going to come through the septic, it's going to discharge into that surface water body, probably. And any kind of removal system that would implement a green solution? And
Yeah.
also, just related to that, the low-impact development guidance and increasing infiltration across the site with impervious. Because by doing that, you'll get more dilution
With
of the
respect to,
groundwater.
yep, so with respect to stormwater, and then you can dive into that, we've actually, as a part of the special permit, the aquifer protection special permit with the planning board, we went to the water department, we went to the planning board, and we did develop a comprehensive stormwater management plan. And what we've done is we've not only treated, but we've also infiltrated all of the impervious on site. So there's a rather large underground infiltration system in between the septic system and what you're saying is the surface water. It takes the roof and the entirety of this parking lot, treats it, and then infiltrates it into the ground. There's a secondary system on the other side of the existing effluent field that takes a small section of the area. And then we have a third infiltration basin that's exclusive to the bank.
So are your infiltration basins, are they riprap or are they green?
They're underground, so they're
Oh,
subsurface.
that's right, I'm sorry, you did say that.
Would you
And
excuse
are you infiltrating through the surface, or are
No,
you
it's
just
closed
directing
network.
and capturing?
We are capturing.
So you might want to
treating, and
consider
infiltrating.
some innovative way, I know this is planning board, but innovative ways to do that, to increase the dilution across the whole area. I'm sorry, to increase the infiltration and increase dilution of any kind of effluent coming out, which it sounds like you've already thought about that. But you're here for a discussion, so I'm just gonna throw that out there.
No, we appreciate
One-
the input.
1 second, please. There's a gentleman who wants to say
Mr.
something.
Chairman, George Sanders, 672 Great Wood. You know, they, Workers Credit Union.
Oh, excuse me, would you just state your name, please?
Yeah.
You
I
just
said
did.
You
George
just
A.
did.
Sanders,
Thank you.
672 Great Road. You know, the Workers Credit Union came out here many months ago. They went through the planning board. I was at the planning board hearings that they had here. Now, the planning board signed off on this. And if the planning board will let credit land be used, and they're doing, I'm trying to figure out how is it that we have another board in the town that will not.
No, it's
Wait
not
a
that we-
minute,
yeah.
just let me finish.
Mhm.
That will not let the credit go into place where the planning board already approved the project, and they will absolve and say, yes, you can use that. So it seems to me that if they went to the extent here to find credit land that will increase their working of the extra 20,000 square feet up there that they're putting in, and it seems to me that the health board would be online with the planning board, that they come in, give you the best technology that they have. And by the way, I was in the environmental field for 30-odd years with the federal government. So I understand environmental, and I'm an environmental person that wants to do the right thing. And I think they're coming here and trying to do the right thing, because this project, for them to come out here, to move their headquarters from Fitchburg out here, and then put in additional branch out here, that's good. We, as taxpayers, have asked for commercial and some more industrial to help relieve some of the impact of the taxes
On the taxes.
on the residential here. So we have a clean industry that's coming in here, and to me, I think that, not saying that you're not working with them, but I think that we need to take heed with what they're trying to do here and look into trying to give them the credit that will resolve the issue here. If it is appropriate, and EPA and the state has said you can do it, then we ought to make sure that we have that in line.
Thank you for
with
your
the
point.
plan board.
The question is, it's not because they're not. The question is, they wanted to hear first. Second, the planning board is one department.
Right.
Second, did you go to the conservation?
Yes.
The conservation is another planet, not only a department, another planet. They say yes or they say no. They just wanted the feasibility, understand the situation. For just to give you an idea, some of them don't even know what exchange would be, right? But we did it before.
And George, this is just
They
a
understand.
discussion, we're not
Yeah,
making
we're
any
not making
decisions.
I understand.
We're just getting some information from
Yeah,
these
you
people
have to
about the
understand that
project.
they also, including myself, we wanted to make sure they come in as a discussion. We're not gonna give me yes or no, we just listen.
I
And
understand.
then when everything is done, they're gonna come and make an appointment for us. They say, would you give us a variance?
I
Or would-
understand that,
okay?
and I appreciate
So
that.
it's not,
I'm
yeah.
just giving you input as a citizen here into this discussion you got here, and saying where the other pieces
I
have
understand.
already been in place, then I'm just saying, we need to look smart here.
Thank you, Joe.
I guess I want to be clear, and this is a discussion item, and we want to hear everything you have to say. But we are looking for some direction, in the sense that if allowing us to utilize credit land is something you would consider, we have a lot of work to do. We have to go out and formalize agreements. We have to go out and formalize all the legal documents that actually restrict that land in perpetuity from ever being used or counted for any other purposes.
Generate the plans.
We have to
Right.
generate the
To go
plans
along with it.
and get back to Mr. Gareffi
Right.
and go for a final approval.
you do
And
all
we
the-
were in the process of that.
Yeah.
But that's when he raised this question that I can see where you're going, I can see where you're gonna try and use this credit land. You need to go talk to the board, because the
No, we
regulation
understand.
doesn't speak to it,
We appreciate
and
it.
he didn't have
Yeah.
a direction for us. I'm not so sure he is opposed to it in any way, especially if we show him the science and the math. All he was pointing out to us is, the bylaw is silent, guys, so before we go any farther, go in and see the board. So while I'm not asking for a decision so
No,
much,
no, no.
it, if you could kind of let us know where your thinking is in terms of credit land.
I think you
Well,
should come back,
I-
and then the board will make a decision. Right now, we can say yes or we can say no. The question
I
is,
understand, sir.
remember what happened, the 5.5 feet? All right. So let's do it properly. Jimmy Garaffi is a very good agent for us. He will give you a good direction, okay? And he will come here, because I think we need him, so he can explain, like you did, about the giving the property on the 10, okay? So
Well,
everybody's on board.
I have a question, and I think we should read Jim's comments.
Go ahead.
Russell Street's just been paved, sidewalks and everything, no
Nice.
disruption of that, or
No, so nothing associated with the septic system will affect Russell Street
even the
whatsoever.
reconstruction of the building?
No.
Okay.
So we've already engaged Chris Stoddard to understand the moratorium and what's going on.
Mhm.
So we're actively working if we have to get out into the street with him and
Okay.
what's acceptable and what's
And
not.
no abutters tonight?
No.
People in the back? No.
We had an extensive 18-month, 20-month
Wow.
process where we methodically, planning
Contacted.
board,
Yeah,
Yep.
conservation, we had a significant amount of abutter involvement.
Mhm.
I mean, it was
It's
was
a
great.
bank,
It
you
was
know?
a,
It's
no,
not a pot shop.
well, you know how it is though. People don't like change.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, people don't like. They wanted to understand the impact.
Yep.
So we have
We had
had
neighborhood meetings.
we had neighborhood meetings outside of the planning board and conservation.
Mhm.
We encouraged them to be involved in the plan. We, you know, at the end of the day, it all worked out great. The neighbors were reasonable. The planning board held our feet to the fire, but ultimately,
You're doing the right
we
thing.
did the right project. And then conservation, I don't have to tell you, they're a tough board, but they worked with us, they pushed us, and we finished. Quite frankly, we were ready to go. Our bad. We missed this
If you didn't have the
Does anybody wanna
local
re-
requirements.
If you didn't have the 20,000 square feet extra, then you really, you had a tough one, right, George?
Yeah, they had to go on it. yeah.
Right, right.
You're looking for, just like, are we gonna say no way, right?
Well,
So I'll just tell you, I'm
okay.
open to it. I just don't know if it's legally possible, what the requirements are, how things are set up. I mean, I'm always looking for a little lagniappe on the, you know.
Yeah, on the, yep, on
You
the
got it.
green treatment.
Yeah, I mean, you know, make it a great project, don't make it a good one.
Okay.
So does anybody want to read Jim's comments?
There's no reason for, because this is a discussion.
Yeah,
We should be.
I was-
but it would be
I
nice to,
think
I
we-
think they
I
want to
give you
know
the
what
okay,
Jim is
go ahead.
I'll
thinking.
move to move.
Go ahead.
Have we seen
got
those?
plenty of time.
I don't have my
Oh, we haven't
glasses.
seen
Oh,
those.
yeah.
We would
Right,
very
okay,
much.
I'll read them.
Oh, you didn't see
119
it, all
Russell
right.
Street. The applicant is looking to expand the existing office space at the above-mentioned address and build a bank on the adjacent property. Pren, I believe they are owned by the same company, Pren. The work is considered new construction in accordance with Title V, as the existing building at 119 is being expanded in a manner that increases its sewage design flow for the site. The applicant will need to be in full compliance with Title V and your regulations. The property falls within the Zone 2 of the Beaver Brook Well and is therefore considered to be nitrogen sensitive. The site is restricted to 110 gallons per day per 10,000 square feet of land area of sewage flow. Title V, 310 CMR 15.2141. The sewage flow from the proposed building would exceed the nitrogen loading for the site. In addition, your local regulation 10 further restricts the sewage flow to a property located in an aquifer or water resource district to 6 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet. That's 60 gallons per 10,000 square feet. According to the LWD map, the site falls, that's Littleton Water Department, site falls within both districts. The Mass Department of Environmental Protection allows increased sewage flow to a property in a couple of different ways. The applicant can offer a nitrogen aggregation plan for the board's approval, or the applicant can propose the use of treatment technology to reduce the nitrogen levels to meet the nitrogen loading limits. There is no treatment technology proposed as part of the sewage disposal system plan submitted to the office, A nitrogen aggregation plan is designed to encumber land adjacent to the property to serve to dilute the nitrogen being discharged by the proposed facility. The DEP provides guidance on the development of a plan. The board needs to approve the plan, and specific documentation needs to be recorded on the deed for the properties involved. This office has not received a plan, and I believe it is premature for the applicant to be pursuing discussions on a plan before submitting a draft for review. After providing the applicant time to present their information, I would strongly recommend that you defer any judgment or decision on this matter until a formal draft is received and reviewed. Guidance for the creation of a plan is involved, and you should have the benefit of time to review their proposal.
That's encouraging.
It's encouraging. Feel
Because
better
what
now?
it says to me, and correct me if I'm interpreting it wrong, is Mr. Garafi saying that we can address this through nitrogen aggregation plan, i.e. credit land, or through advanced technology, and he's suggesting we submit
The old
a plan. that's a little different than at least I think the verbal discussion we had where he was suggesting that before we submit a nitrogen aggregation plan utilizing credit land, we make sure the board is amenable to reviewing that or considering it.
Oh.
So that's, I find that very encouraging.
He says
And if that's,
the NAP should be adjacent to the property.
It doesn't have to be.
I've never, quite frankly, I've never, in all the nitrogen aggregation plans I've done, we've never had it adjacent. The key for us scientifically, as I understand it and legally, was that it has to be within the same watershed area, the same
Well, this
water
way,
resource
yeah,
protection.
the aquifer.
Or aquifer
Aquifer protection
resource.
zone.
And our credit land is. So, if the board is comfortable with Mr. Garafi's suggestion, I suggest we
Make an appointment.
take the
Make a plan,
time
yeah.
to put the aggregation plan together, utilizing credit land. I can provide not only Mr. Garafi, but this board with some nice background and history on aggregation plans, a copy of all the documentation that needs to be put in place, and all of the other legal fund stuff I get to do. And we'll submit that to both the board and to Mr. Garafi for his review, and would ask your indulgence in allowing us to come back
Yeah.
and present that plan. Am I right in assuming that the board still might view
No.
that as a variance of some kind?
You have to guess.
Because we're me.
You have to guess.
Well,
We don't wanna
listen,
give you
I will
any-
ask
we
for
don't
it.
wanna give you
If
any
you don't think I
indication.
need it,
We
I can
want you
always.
to work
you can
hard. We
send
want
it.
you to work hard.
Well, you will find that this group and Workers' Credit Union is more than willing to work hard to do this right. You mentioned,
We want to wish you.
don't do it good, do it right.
Right.
These guys have not hesitated throughout this whole process to do that, and I think they can prove to you the same thing, that we will do that.
Yeah, they're in a great position to be successful with, the location on 495 and Route 2 and,
The point.
Yeah.
The point. And I will tell you, although from a timing perspective, it doesn't work with us, Workers is continuing to work with the town in their long-term plan. So maybe someday we're
because
here
phase 2 might
and we
be
do our aggregation
a little further.
plan, and maybe when that comes to fruition, there'll be an
That's-
ability to tie in.
Yep.
See, you're so happy, you're smiling. You have to
Should've read
stop
that first.
smiling. You come back next time.
Listen, I'm not always happy I come to boards.
We
I don't
want-
always
we
get
want-
a nice discussion
We
and
want you
friendly
to come
people.
back and
Sometimes I get
look
thrown out
serious.
the board.
You
All
have
right.
to look
Okay,
serious.
okay, so,
I
Do we need
think
to-
the discussion has to
discussion,
be
Nope.
put on motion. You have anybody?
Nope.
No motion?
Nope.
We're gonna discuss.
discussion is
Forget
ended?
about it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. We
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
We'll be back with a plan.
I hope you sleep well tonight.
Me too.
Good night. You got your elastic here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe, for coming.
Thank you all.
Think we have anybody else coming in? Are you coming?
I am coming. How are you?
Joan?
I'm Joan.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
We
This is
have
DJ
Robert.
Wilson from Mass Municipal Association.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
Sorry to hold you up.
That's okay.
Are you smiling already or not?
Oh, yeah, I'm
Oh,
I'm happy
okay.
to be here.
Okay.
I'm really happy to be here. I have packets for you all.
Thank you.
And there's some new board members, because I'm actually your tobacco agent, and you guys have designated me to, look into your tobacco regs, answer
Right.
tobacco questions.
I was present when you did.
Yeah, we work on policy, so there's a lot of new members and a newer secretary. And I had sent out an email to all the Alliance towns, because we were 34, but in our new funding cycle, we're 29, I think now. So I sent out an email about the new state law that went into effect that just passed, and DJ can speak to a little bit about that. And the town of Littleton pays dues to Mass Municipal. So he's our legal technical advisor on all policies. So if a board has a creative off-the-grid idea, I run it through DJ, we look for language. he doesn't represent you, he's an attorney, but he doesn't represent as an attorney, he just makes recommendation and policy, and then your own town council looks at things. There's nothing we're asking you, though, today that town council would need to look at. We looked at Littleton's regs, and there was a 2014, we started looking into regs, asking you guys to look at a draft that had cigar pricing, a blunt wrap ban, it had multiple pharmacy restrictions, things like that. That was most of the communities passed that between 2014 and 2016. Your most recent reg was passed in 2016, where you used the newer definitions that most of the regulations had on how to define tobacco, which would include vape and electronic devices, all into the new definition. But it's missing a lot of the older components. So when we were talking, the interest here for tonight for a board to make a decision on would be only 21. Taking a look at your regulation,
Number 21 or?
raising the age
Oh,
to 21.
okay.
The state,
I was gonna ask you that. Before it used to be 16, many years ago.
not in my time, but
No.
18, but yeah.
Yeah, 16, they used to go by cigarette in New Hampshire. 16.
Oh, New Hampshire,
Oh,
but in
maybe-
Massachusetts,
Then
you're
in
going back to the
Massachusetts,
30s
they
and the
went to
40s.
18. Now from 18, we're gonna go
Giving
to
away
It's
21.
from that time, so it's okay.
So,
Okay.
what I
Forgive
did, because we won't, I mean, I know that it's a long agenda and there's a lot of material that I gave you to review, so what I'd like to do is just go over the documents, have DJ give you a little bit of feedback on what we can pass tonight, and then I'd like to come back in a January or February meeting to review all your updates, so I just. Yes, because you need to read it and figure it all out, and I wrote notes to you
Yep.
everywhere. in
We all
full.
got this via email too.
Oh, you already did,
Yeah.
okay, so that's good that you got this, so that was this. This is the regulation, and then I have additional, copies for you, that these are the municipal lists of all your neighbors and everybody who's done the most basic, the policies around it.
Actually,
And he
You
has an
sub out
update list,
this
because he
list.
updates it weekly,
This
because
is
right
just the
now,
age limit.
I had 17 towns in 6 weeks raise the age to 21 to get rid of the gap year that the
Yeah.
state is allowing, which I'm
That
gonna
way with
explain
those.
to you in a second.
So,
This is just the most current taffy sheet we have as of March of 2018, just smoking facts regarding Littleton. And then this last two sheets are FYI, your compliance checks in terms of sales to minors. You've only had one sale to minor since 2015, which is great. And then these are the 9 current retailers that we have for Littleton. I think when we started with Littleton, we had 14, I think, we're down to 9. So I just wanted you to have that information, and if you had a chance to read some of this, this is great, so I'm not sure where you're at, because taking on all the changes is a lot for just a meeting without a public hearing, but 21 is something you could make a motion tonight.
I was just gonna say, we should just go ahead and make a motion to
For the
change,
21.
to change the age to 21.
Excuse me, what about those people that started earlier and they were able to buy a cigarette at 18, even though they were smoking when they were 16 in New Hampshire?
So he can explain that, that's called the gap year.
Okay.
And
We're trying to eliminate
frankly,
that.
we're hoping.
Yes, we're gonna eliminate that.
We're trying to eliminate, so
Right.
they can say, oh, I was smoking before, I can buy it now. So their question is, show a license, see when you were born, if you're over 21, you get it. If you're less than 21, you don't get it.
Correct.
So they're not gonna cause any trouble and couple lawyers come to the Board of Health and they give us trouble.
No.
No.
Okay? So this is the state will allow the Board of Health to determine what age.
So the state has a weird caveat in it.
Yeah.
So that's why cities and towns are acting. We're
Yeah.
averaging about 5 a week for the last 2 months, putting this in place. Ludlow was voting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So then the reason for it is that the way the state will ride, it'll say, as of the new year, the minimum legal sales age is 21 unless you turned 18 by December 30th, 2018. So
Okay.
it's very confusing to
I know,
retailers,
you
to
know,
us.
you give us so much extra work to the people that sell cigarettes.
I know. So, but then the state allowed cities and towns to still go further, but only until December 30th. So
Yeah.
that's why we had this
So you had to pass
gold
it and
rush.
have it effective by December 30th.
Yeah,
So that's why I had this
Otherwise,
gold
you have
rush.
to allow the gap,
Yeah.
allow the grandfather clause.
So we do believe that
That's why we're-
it's
yeah.
easy.
That's why everybody's.
We're racing
I was
this
like,
in.
what is going on? Okay,
Yeah.
that explains it.
No.
So we do believe that it's better public health to go straight from 18 to 21. All these 200, of the 215 in the list, Only 2 did the step-ups, and they were Needham, who did this a dozen years ago, and one other town. Everybody else got 18 to 21. We hope that this, for these gap year people, that it's a quit attempt. They actually, it's a low percentage of kids in that age range, and we're hoping that they quit, frankly, because but we do think that going straight to 18 to 21 is far easier for the retailers too.
Your retailers think that too.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to every one of them, but we do a pricing survey every year for the Board of Health. We do 3 inspections for the newer folks for you. We do a pricing survey, which the state tells us which stores to go to which quarter, but everybody gets it done once. So we're making sure everybody's pricing properly.
Right.
The other thing we do is a couple times a year we go in and do a youth access check to make sure they're not selling to the minor. But we also do a retail visit where we have a packet, we go over all the new Attorney General laws, all the state laws, any new local regulation. We give them materials, do you have any questions, can we help you? Because our goal is to educate them, not catch them in
Right.
non-compliance.
Right,
We
right,
really
right.
don't want non-compliance. But
Too bad.
so far, in the pricing survey since this law has passed, we went to several of the Littleton stores doing the required pricing survey, and they're like, where's our signs? And I said, as soon as the state makes them, we'll get them to you, because they have to come up with the language to address the grandfather clause.
For the new one.
People were confused, they're like, what do you mean? They raised the age to 21, and then when I explained it to the store retailers, they're like, don't do that, get the boards to just go straight to 21,
I would
because
too.
they feel like their clerks can barely make change, or they
Yeah.
can't, to
We're
have to
gonna
go.
lose so much time.
December
To do the
31st, you're legal to buy, but your birthday's January 2nd, you're not legal. They're afraid that your good compliant stores will have accidental violations.
Yeah, that's too bad. In New Hampshire, there's no law like this, 21, am I
No,
correct?
18.
18,
Yeah.
so that
Go
means
for it.
people from Massachusetts, they're gonna, 18, they're gonna go to New Hampshire like they did when they were 16. Very simple.
No,
Not
they-
everything
well, they
get caught
do-
smoking.
Right, they do say that, but I have Ashburnham, Ashby, Winchton, and Townsend. And Townsend passed 21 3 years ago, and no store is reporting loss of business. They just replace the products. They're not. No one has made the complaint. And Winchton, Mass is kind of a tough community, and no one made a complaint, and we're doing really well there. So we're not
Mr.
having
Chair?
any problems implementing this.
May I make a motion?
Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the age of 21 for the legal sale of
Second?
I'll
tobacco in
second.
town.
All in favor?
Aye.
And so the effective date just needs to be on or before December
On
30th.
or before
Right.
December 30th.
Well, you put for effective December 30th. You have to pick
Effective.
an actual date in the
Okay.
reg.
Do we need to
Make the
redo that?
motion again.
Nope.
No, you
So
could
like-
have a second
Just add
motion
it.
just for the
Yeah.
effective date.
You wanna go for
You
December
got it?
30th?
Make a motion, a second motion
Yeah.
to adopt it as of December 30th.
Correct.
2018.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You okay with that?
So I'll tell you what the next steps are.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
I do is I will send, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name.
Janet.
Janet. I was gonna say Jane. Janet. I will send Janet the legal notice tomorrow that would go into your paper at the next available edition. Because we're only making that change, there's 3 places in your current reg, we have to change 18 to 21, and then there's a new signature page, and you don't have to wait till your next meeting. As soon as she gets the signature page ready with the new date on it, you could just drop in and sign it. And then as soon as she has a legal copy, I send the copy to DEP, and I will go and hand a notice to every single store informing them of the policy, and they will sign that they had received it. And then as soon as we get the sign from the state, I'll go back to each store and give them a sign. And then if there's any type of feedback that you need to know about, I'll put it in my report to
Wow,
Janet.
that's great.
We got 3
What's
signatures
that?
here, right?
Yes.
You want people to sign
So
this?
if they sell
There's
to
signatures.
unknowingly to someone that's under 18,
That's a
what's the
draft, but we'll get
process?
a,
So
Okay.
that they have
Your
a real one.
regulations give them a fine of $100 for the first offense and a 2-day permit suspension, and then the second offense is a $200 fine, and then they lose their tobacco license. I think you have 10 days, and then your third offense is 30 days, and then after more than 3 in a 24-month period, they'd have to come in and you could revoke their right to sell tobacco.
And what if one young man happened to work and he just skipped a couple of days, he doesn't realize it?
Well,
They still
the-
get the license.
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I mean, they
that's
really-
based on your own, that's based on your own regulation, but Most give, they at least get $100 fine. They can appeal it in the court, and the court may reduce it. We always ask the court for a responsible fining. We don't care about the fine as much, just because if they become a repeat violator, you want to maybe be able to go to the next step. You've had one sale since 2015, and they got a warning, because everybody gets a one-time
Yeah, we like
new
it.
owner warning. They get
Yeah.
that one time
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
lifetime of owning the business.
Yeah, yeah.
So we haven't written a fine in Littleton. I think last time I did was 6 years ago. So knock on wood, but,
Though,
you know.
I will say on the flip side, our argument is that we've now been around for 24, 25 years, the state program, and I think Littleton may have been a part of that from the start.
Littleton was funded under the Neshoba program, and then they had a gap years of no
Right.
funding,
Okay,
and then
so-
I picked them up.
So for most of that 25 years, you were funded. So your retailers do know that they can't sell to minors. They need to they're responsible for selling an age-restricted product. They're responsible for training their people. And we really have gotten into the rhythm that keeps Boards of Health hands clean by saying, did a sale take place, period. There's no other.
Yeah.
There's no-
Everybody
Do
gets
they
treated.
self-report when it happens? Do they?
Oh, no. Of course
And-
not.
and the
They don't
same-
know. Lots of times they don't know.
You're not there every day to
Is it-
check it.
No.
No.
You can
This
only
is a
find them
compliance check.
you can only find them on a state compliance check or as witnessed by an agent or a board member or an agent. So someone can't call us up and go, oh, I saw in a store they sold to a minor, and we don't write a ticket like
These
that.
are compliance
So,
checks she
I mean,
does.
You gotta have a witness.
And then there's also
Yeah.
FDA compliance checks done by the federal government, unbeknownst to any of us. You'll learn
Oh, so it's
a
like
month or
a
two later that
secret
happened.
shopper goes in.
Yeah.
A sting
We
operation
send
where they have
one in.
She
We
has a
send one
trained
in
youth.
locally
Yeah.
for you
A
on
youth-
your regulations. The
Is it a
state
youth? Is
sends
it a
one in
youth,
on
or
their
is it a
regulations, and the
21-year-old
FDA
that
sends
looks
them in.
young?
They get
Oh,
inspected probably 9 times a
we
year.
don't screw around.
Yeah. It's a youth.
And
Yeah, 'cause
Littleton
we don't
was
wanna
doing
lose in
excellent,
court.
but we
Yeah.
educate
We don't need to
Littleton
have you on
every
the
year.
front
We're
page
there,
today.
I meet with the owners face to face, spend 10-15 minutes with them. I give my email, I give my number, do you have any questions? So Littleton is doing, you have really responsive. I do believe in Littleton when it happens, it's an accident. We have on the beat, there might be that store we can never catch, but every parent is calling us, all the kids are telling us. We don't have that in Littleton, so I think we'll be fine. But I would like to, just come back to another meeting and look at the components that you're missing.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is, I mean, I read through all this, and everything in blue is the new law. Everything you bolded is stuff that we should really look at incorporating into our local regs.
Correct.
Right.
So, I mean, I think I would just like to see a nice, clean version of
Yeah, me
what
too.
of what you recommend,
Yep.
so we can adopt it.
Okay.
Why would we have to include it in the local if it's already state law?
It allows for local enforcement, it makes it cleaner, that if,
No discrepancies between the
Is
two.
it easier, does it make
verbiage.
your job easier?
Well, my job is to do this for you.
Yeah.
So, what happens is if you have a store that's selling on a regular basis and we report it to the state, they don't have the resources to come out and do it outside of their own scope, so you can handle it your own way locally.
so for.
And if you're doing
for-
local education and enforcement, your stores are more likely to pass state and federal and get less fines because we're working with them on a regular basis
Right, right.
to stay compliant.
So for example, it'll be in the new state law that pharmacies can't sell tobacco or vaping products. But if it's in your local regulation, then she doesn't need to, we've never caught a pharmacy, by the way, they're all very good. But in that instance, if she had to write a ticket, she wouldn't have to rely on the state law, she could rely on your local
Okay,
regulation.
so it does make it easier.
Mhm.
Is that the answer?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And the state, you can, in your local regulation, you can prohibit flavor from being candy flavored and nerd flavored and Captain Crunch flavored tobacco and vape being sold in the convenience store. You can restrict it to an adult only store where that's not in the state law. So these
Oh,
local regs have some
okay.
more than the state law.
Yeah, the state law actually will do, a state law, this one took 6 years to get into place, so the industry has that was a long time ago in the tobacco industry world. So it'll expand to no sales of vaping products to minors, no vaping in smoke-free locations, pharmacies can't sell, and trying to think, it does a handful of other things, but most cities and towns already have them in place. The things that are not in place are banning the sale of blunt wraps, minimum pricing on cigars, and the flavor restriction that you spoke of.
Yeah, and your local police departments overwhelmingly support the blunt wrap ban. But the one thing that I would normally do, like if I come back, this is what I do, is I look at the top sheet and we just say, what would you like me to include in your draft? And then the board decides on all the stuff in blue, because all the stuff in black you already have.
Okay.
So that, but I can definitely run you down what a black and white copy would look like. Ideally, what I would recommend for Littleton but then we could talk about it in this page, because I might recommend something and you might vote on, we want these 5 sections, but not this one.
Okay.
It's actually basically.
I have no idea.
Basically, our sample, our sales sample contains it all.
Right, do you,
So that's
you
what
were,
it would
you
look
were
like.
here, back here in 2016, do you know why some of the components like the wrap band and the scar pricing or the flavor didn't make it in?
Fell through the
Just it was too
cracks.
overwhelming?
I think that the people made the decision
Yeah,
when they voted.
yeah, it was just kind of how the board voted at that time.
Will we have to have a public hearing like we did for the other regs when we change it? I mean, is it gonna have to
Should.
be, go through all that, you know, posting it and?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to post it, you only have to post it once.
Mhm.
And again, I hand deliver the notice to all the merchants, I talk to them in person, I give them a color-coded draft so they can see what the changes are. It also helps me prepare, because if I feel someone that's really strong against it, I can make sure that
Will
we're
you come to
prepared
the
at the
meeting?
meeting. We come to the meeting, DJ comes as your legal technical
Okay.
advisor.
And we
I
recommend you
come-
have it as being part of your agenda for a regular monthly meeting. You know, leave it open-ended, but you don't need to make a special night of it.
Oh, great, okay.
I think everything in blue here would be to the benefit of public health, and I don't see why we wouldn't include all that.
The last 6 public hearings I've had lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So these, we're not asking you to do cutting edge. Everybody around you has already passed these policies, so you're just kind of gonna be joining what surrounds you. So I don't foresee, and most of your stores own a business selling tobacco in one of the towns that has these regulations. I think it's 70%.
Really?
Yeah, they
So
already
we don't
own it.
need, we don't need any owner of the establishment to come here.
Well, that'd be part of the hearing. So she would tell them that the hearing is happening,
Yeah.
and they would make the decision.
Whether
They make
come
the
or not
decision
come.
if they want to come or not.
But maybe somebody will come, you know, public, I mean, there should be.
Well, we typically, you know, we do
interested.
have, you know, there are
What is-
trade associations in the state that work with the
What is
tobacco
worrying
industry.
me
and-
about, as an individual,
Yeah.
they allow, the state allows the marijuana now, right? What's gonna happen next? They're gonna allow cocaine or something like that?
Oh, I don't think so,
Heroin?
but,
I know what you're saying, it's.
You see that, Washington?
Jeez.
Can I
To
ask-
the
can I-
MAHB
It's like looking at
certificate conference, and they talked a lot about the vaping, and they talked about the
Serious?
Cumberland Farms case, about the jazz flavor.
Yes.
And the big trial and everything, it was really
We
interesting.
get,
that-
It went in the
town.
town's
No cooking.
favor, but then Cumberland Farms is appealing.
Can you speak to, I think I went to a lecture about addiction and they were talking about how the FDA pulled Juul off the market. Well,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
Juul pulled themselves off the market before the FDA had a chance to.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of, that's definitely DJ's
Um,
wheelhouse.
Yeah. So, you know, the difference with Juul, just to give a
Just
2
nicotine,
minutes
yeah.
background, the difference from Juul from other e-cigarettes is that it has a couple things going for it that were brilliant. It looks like a thumb drive. You can, I work downtown Boston, people walk around all the time like this, and it looks like they're coughing, but they're
They
actually
smell
vaping.
too, that stuff stinks.
It actually has it can have very little vapor compared to other e-cigarettes, and the pod, which is about the size of my thumb, contains about a pack's worth of nicotine.
Oh,
So
long
therein
does
lies
that
the
last?
problem.
You know,
As
don't they
fast
just-
as a kid can
They
inhale
don't
it in
realize
their
that
head.
thing
It's
is
like a
poison.
little, kind of like a fuse
It's
kind of looking
literally,
thing.
yes.
Yeah, it looks like a thumb drive, like you could stick it
It's
in.
like a
your-
car fuse, yes.
The
Juul,
cartridge.
J-U-L-E.
Yes, yeah.
So they
So,
suck it in
to our
and-
benefit, the FDA cares about this, which is a pleasant surprise. And they've confiscated
No, this was the lady with the
documents, the
cottage.
FBI, from their headquarters to see if they're going after youth. They have 70% of the U.S. market, and youth.
Not signing it.
Just like the tobacco industry never said, "Oh, Marlboro never went
Right.
after youth," but that's how it all rolled. And so Juul has made a decision on their own that they're not going to sell flavors in stores, but only online. We'll see how that plays out.
Oh,
We've
boy.
never had a good voluntary program come out of the tobacco industry. Any one of the cigarette manufacturers, we'll see what happens here. But they certainly are on notice. One of the things that also came out from the commissioner's mouth was that we recognize that if they do away with the flavors, Juul is still going to keep menthol on in the market, and menthol is a favorite of kids as well. Tomorrow night, Needham, and Thursday night, Somerville, those two boards of health are entertaining getting rid of the menthol exemption, which should cause a good long hearings for me both tomorrow and Thursday night. They'll probably get some media attention, and it probably will spark a lawsuit. But menthol is about a third of the market, and it's 70% of the black
I
market.
thought the FDA was gonna ban menthol in general.
They're working on it, but slowly, like they're starting to look at it, but
Yeah.
I mean,
How can you ban menthol for Juul and not for cigarettes? Or would it
It'd be for
both?
everybody.
It would
It'd be
be
everything.
No menthol.
It wouldn't be a ban either. It would just be like the same policy that
Adult
moves
only
everything's in
shops.
adult only. So it would leave behind only tobacco-flavored tobacco products in convenience stores. But menthol, along with peach and liquor flavors, everything else
Gotta
would
be
go
21
to
to enter
a
the
qualifying store
So no flavors.
Unbelievable.
in your general convenience store, correct?
It would only be allowed to be sold in an adult-only store that sells just tobacco and vape products only.
Wow.
We have a definition which
Yeah.
they need to meet to.
Oh, so that would
And
be a
then
whole
mom and
different
dad can't
store.
bring baby in a backpack, or kook mom can't
Well,
come in with their
it's-
15-year-old. Nobody can cut, no
Should
minor
we
can
put
cross the
this
threshold.
Did you say
that-
On the
Cool?
agenda?
Cool mom.
Oh, I
Cool
think
But it's
mom.
kind of,
Cool
it
Mom.
comes down
No,
to
cool mom.
tobacconists.
The cool mom that
Cookie
brings
mom.
in 15
Cookie
year olds
mom.
is willing to buy.
Can you guys make
Would
it
be
to our
able
next
to.
meeting?
Yes, in January.
Okay,
Yep, we can.
okay.
And I just wanted, you mentioned MHAB, the presentation, I wanted to let you know Cheryl Sabara is the attorney that does that legal for MHAB, and she's counterpart to Mass Municipal, and DJ and Cheryl and I actually have been working, I've been in the tobacco control since
Yeah, we've been-
'94, and you guys
Same.
right around there, '94, '95, so we've all worked together. But Cheryl and DJ are interchangeable in terms of helping us when we need technical assistance at board meetings.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
so that's
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry they had to wait all this
No.
time.
That's okay.
I'm happy. I'm 21 in Littleton, and I can let everyone know.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I will
Mr. Chair?
email you tomorrow.
Okay.
We have to sign anything?
I
Yeah, I
can't
just
make
was
the
just
change,
double
normally I'd
checking
make the change and send it to you,
Okay.
because
Remember
all I have is a
that
PDF
young
version,
woman
so
that-
do you know, can you locate a Word
I
version?
asked Shelley
Was
to
it a
look, but
three-bedroom
we're in the
or-
Oh, that
middle of,
guy?
Okay, yep.
Is it-
I'll look, I might
So
have
I
one,
have to-
I might have one
And
from
I
a
don't-
while ago, and I can match it to make
Actually,
sure whatever was
building
signed is
engineer
identical.
I can look too.
Otherwise, you
I
have to
could have something on my
retype
files.
it.
Okay.
Well, they have the signed PDF, we're looking for a Word version. I tried to convert it, because sometimes you can convert
Yeah.
PDF to
And I
Word, but I
have no
couldn't.
This was
version,
supposed to
so.
be a geotech
Jen, can we
engineer.
take a conference?
Wasn't a geotech supposed
Yes,
to
I'll put
provide
them in,
a
Because they only
plan
speak a few
before
minutes and
construction?
leave, you know?
Yes.
Let's see if Jen has a plan
They
for
can
that.
wait for
Okay.
I think we need the
Can we
notes.
just review some notes about what we decided on
What's the address?
Six Cottage?
Yep, so you guys approved that. This is.
A
she's been
four-bedroom
wait-
house?
For what?
For a
Four-bedroom,
four-bedroom
Yes,
house?
you did, yep.
Okay.
And we've just been, Jim's been sitting on it, just
He said,
because
okay.
that's the one that had the
Yeah.
lawsuit that's going. He's just hadn't gotten around to it because they can't do anything more.
Weren't they supposed to, it says the engineer to certify the retaining wall construction, but weren't they supposed to submit geotechnical engineering for the
No, They
retaining
were all
wall?
finished, they had submitted
don't have to do
everything
the
and they were
design.
fine. Nope, everything
You're
was
right,
good.
okay. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Like you said, it's been so far, so long ago.
Yeah.
I just wanted to,
Yeah.
I don't want to,
I messed one up.
I have a pile,
I don't want to get into
but
it.
I wanted to listen to their
All right,
discussion.
Gina, you want to adjourn?
Not until these are signed.
I moved
Oh.
to, oh,
Easy,
I can go back
People, your
now.
little
You
brains.
gotta
Almost
sign it.
9.
It's not my fault, it's you guys that take long time, right, Kevin? I was
I
on,
would have been out of here at 8 o'clock.
You would,
I was on
Out of here
time.
at 8 o'clock.
Do you remember 7, what's that?
Here, let me start a couple down this way and we can
I
crisscross.
was doing fine.
Here.
Then all of a
10 past
sudden-
7.
Everybody take one.
Yeah, stop talking, stop talking and sign. Read and sign.
They signed it in 2016.
remember this page. Oh, this one.
They don't,
Right.
yeah, and these don't require variances, so that's why we're signing.
Yeah, that's why they're.
Yes,
If you find
I-
it tomorrow, send it to me,
Okay.
or send me what you have. Thank you.
This is getting confusing.
And they
Thank you.
really only need
Thanks so
three,
much.
so if, as long as you have 3 on there, you're good.
And this is
Wait,
the
I'm
guy
getting it
who,
from both sides.
Yes, because I'm starting them on both sides.
Oh, look at
this
that.
guy didn't need a
Build another house
variance
already.
because he changed his plan? Is that what happened?
Yes.
If I have to, I
Another Cooper firm?
Didn't you need one for,
They feel they.
use of a barrier? That was the
Field
variance,
development.
the barrier on the edge.
Oh, okay.
You guys- field.
So Cooper Farm, I thought they had a shared system, I thought they had,
That's what it says.
They each get their own tank.
oh, okay. But a system?
Yeah, the lot is connected to the shared systems already.
Yeah. It's another Cooper farm right there.
You can look at these if
You
you're
got it?
already signed
Have you
this.
seen that development?
I'm not looking at it.
No more.
All right, let's see, who didn't
Three
sign
on-
these?
You just
Anybody?
want 3 on them, right?
Yeah, three's fine.
Well, I sign it.
Okay,
What is
2,
this?
3.
This is not, oh,
Sign anything.
what is this?
May I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Me.
Aye.
Who said second?
Aaron.